She stood by the door, her hand clutching the small velvet box I had given her 3 years ago. The air between us was heavy, filled with the kind of silence that has weight. She didn't look angry, just distant, like someone trying to remember the name of a song they once loved but no longer cared to hear. "I don't need the ring today," she said softly, her voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. Those 6 words hung in the air, slow and deliberate, like the echo of something final. I didn't know what to say. I'd been waiting for her all morning, coffee gone cold on the table, hoping that maybe today would feel different. But instead, it felt like the end of something that had been ending for a while. Claire wasn't cruel. She was tired. I could see it in her eyes, the exhaustion of pretending, of smiling through something that didn't fit anymore. We'd been engaged for 9 months. At first, it was all laughter, plans, and weekend drives to see wedding venues we couldn't afford. She loved vintage dresses and small ceremonies. She said she didn't want anything loud or big, that love should whisper, not shout. But somewhere between choosing the flowers and the catering, the whisper died. She stopped answering my texts with warmth. Calls turned short. Our dinners became quiet exchanges of, "How was your day?" and "Fine." I thought it was stress, work, planning, maybe life. But deep down, I knew better. When she said she didn't need the ring, she wasn't talking about the gold. She was talking about us. I tried to hold on. I reminded her of our first night together in Chicago. The rain, the diner, the way she laughed when the waiter spilled coffee and apologized 1,000 times. I told her love like ours doesn't just vanish. But she only smiled a sad, polite smile, the kind people use when they've already made up their mind. That night, I found her phone on the counter, face down, still unlocked. I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity is cruel when you're desperate. There were messages. A name I didn't recognize, Evan. The texts weren't explicit, but they didn't have to be. "I can't keep lying to him," she'd written. "He deserves better." And Evan had replied, "I'll wait, just be sure." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I hadn't mentioned it. I told myself it was a misunderstanding. Maybe he was a friend, a colleague. But when she said she didn't need the ring, every lie I told myself fell apart. She left without another word. The sound of the door closing was soft, but final. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the space she'd left behind. The coat she always forgot to hang, the mug she never finished. It was strange how a house could still look full when someone's already gone. I walked to the dresser where I kept my ring, the one I'd bought for myself after the engagement, a symbol of the promise we were both supposed to keep. I picked it up. It felt heavier than I remembered, like it had absorbed every argument, every unspoken word. "I don't need it at all," I whispered, and I dropped it. The small metallic sound echoed across the floor, faint but sharp, like punctuation at the end of a sentence I never wanted to write. That night I didn't sleep. I kept wondering when exactly we stopped being us. Was it the first lie? The first time she looked at her phone instead of at me? Or maybe it was when I started accepting her silence as normal. Whatever it was, I realized something. Love doesn't end with a fight. It ends with indifference. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds like nothing had changed. The world outside kept moving, indifferent to the small heartbreak happening in my apartment. I made coffee out of habit, poured 2 cups, then stared at the second one before pouring it down the sink. The silence was louder than ever. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I told myself I wouldn't beg, that if she wanted to walk away, I'd let her. But the truth? Every part of me wanted to hear her voice, even if it was just to end things properly. By noon, I caved. I drove to her place. Our place, really, since I'd spent half my life there the past few years. The door was unlocked. Inside, boxes lined the hallway. Her shoes were gone, her books missing from the shelves. On the table, the engagement photo we took at the beach sat face down, like she couldn't bear to see us smiling anymore. I found a note taped to the fridge. It wasn't long. "I'm sorry. You've been good to me, better than I deserved. But I can't keep living a lie. Please don't hate me. Claire." No mention of Evan. No explanation beyond those few words. For a moment, I just stood there, reading the note over and over, hoping the ink might rearrange itself into something else, something that made sense. But it didn't. I folded it neatly, placed it in my pocket, and walked out. That night, I met my brother for a drink. He's the blunt type, no patience for emotional fog. "She's gone, man," he said. "Let her go before she takes what's left of you." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. He was right. Yet, a part of me still wondered, how do you let go of someone who once felt like home? Over the next week, I tried to rebuild routine. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. But routine has a cruel way of reminding you what's missing. Every time I drove past the cafe where we used to meet, I could almost hear her laugh, soft and teasing. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped before I remembered she wasn't coming back. One evening, about 10 days later, I got a message from an unknown number. "Hey, I'm Evan. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long minute. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room. Another part wanted to know why. I agreed to meet him the next day at a quiet diner on 5th Street. He was already there when I arrived, nervously stirring a cup of black coffee. He looked younger than I expected, maybe early 30s. His eyes were kind. Not the kind you'd expect from someone who stole your fiancé. He stood up when he saw me. "I didn't come here to cause more pain," he said. "I just thought you deserved the truth." He told me they'd met at a marketing conference 6 months ago. One late dinner turned into long messages, then calls, then guilt. She told him she was engaged, but unhappy, that I'd stopped listening, that the wedding felt wrong. "She wasn't lying about the guilt," he said quietly. "She cried every time she mentioned you." I didn't know what to say. I wasn't angry, not anymore. Just empty. When I left the diner, the evening air felt colder than usual. I walked for blocks without realizing where I was going until I ended up near the park where I'd proposed to her. The benches, the lake, even the old oak tree, it all looked the same. But it felt different now. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the note she'd left. I unfolded it, read it one last time, then let the wind take it. The paper lifted, swirled, and disappeared into the night. Maybe closure doesn't come with explanations. Maybe it comes when you stop asking for them. As I walked back to my car, I realized something simple yet profound. Love isn't about holding on when someone's already gone. It's about having the strength to let them go and still wish them peace. I hadn't worn the ring since that morning, but as I sat behind the wheel, I looked at my empty hand and smiled for the first time in weeks. I whispered, "You were right, Claire. You didn't need the ring that day." Then I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror and added, "But neither do I." The engine started, the city lights blurred behind me, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was driving away from something. I felt like I was driving toward myself.